I would like to welcome you all to this very important meeting today, Tuesday, April 3, 2018, in the City of Portsmouth City Council chambers.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Commissioners, we will now have roll call. Please indicate your presence electronically. Wait a minute, give her time to open. 6 members of the Planning Commission are present.
Commissioners, before you are the minutes of the March 6, 2018 public hearing. If there aren't any changes, we are in need of a motion. Commissioner Hoffler.
Hi. On page 10, there are a few changes that need to be noted as far as the outlining areas there, as far as some typos, some corrections there. If they could be corrected.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Do I have a second to approve as corrected?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We have a motion and a second to make the necessary changes in the minutes on page 10. You will be voting electronically. 6 members of the Planning Commission have approved the minutes. Please note that our next scheduled work session is Tuesday, May the 1st, 2018 at 12:30 p.m., 6th floor conference room, followed by public hearing at 1:30 p.m., City Council chamber. Items reviewed today will be presented to City Council for action at their May the 22nd or June the 12th public hearing, or as otherwise noted. Planning Commission rules limit a speaker up to 5 minutes to speak. We also ask that everyone please silence your cell phones at this time if you have not already done so. Our first item is Z-18-01 Portsmouth Acres. Robert C. Barclay IV, Esquire, on behalf of WP2 LLC, requests a proffered rezoning of 303 Bedford Court. The property is currently zoned General Residential, GR. The proposed zoning is Conditional Light Industrial. The property is further described as Tax Map 570, Parcel 11. The comprehensive plan designates the property as part of a mixed-use corridor. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Thompson, members of the Commission. My name is Robert Barclay, and my business address is 200 High Street, Suite 500, Portsmouth, Virginia 23704. And I'm here on behalf of the owner of the property, WP2 LLC. And here's a slide on the proposal. I'd like to begin by just talking a little bit about the property itself and what you can see from the PowerPoint slides. The property is this site right here, currently zoned general residential. And what I'd like to note specifically is what the surrounding uses are, because what the owner is asking for is to have the zoning more accurately reflect both the comprehensive plan and what the surrounding land use classifications are. As you can see, the property on 3 sides is bordered by already zoned light industrial properties. And you can see the property itself right there looks across the street at self-storage, which is zoned industrial. The residential property that's right here, actually that is a sewer pump station. So the closest residential property with an actual house on it are these properties over here. And so therefore, the applicant believes it'd be better to have this property zoned industrial, as it is the entrance to this industrial park on Seaboard Court and Seaguard Avenue. To look at some of the other views of what you see, that's across the street. There's an existing Red Barn store, which is a convenience store with fuel sales to the north. To the east is the self-storage property. To the south is the railroad right-of-way, and then behind it, that is the industrial park. On the west, you have the sewer pump station and the property catty corner over there. And again, with an aerial view, you see over here, you've got multifamily residential, and then all these industrial uses and commercial use there. This is a shopping center across the street anchored by a food line. The comprehensive plan recognizes this being a major commercial corridor and calls for it to be a mixed-use corridor, which could contain both commercial, residential, and industrial properties. I think the comprehensive plan recognizes that purely residential really is not an appropriate designation for this site, given its surroundings. It is suited to any number of commercial uses. In particular, it would be suited to a convenience store with fuel sales, which is the identical use at Red Barn. The difference with Red Barn, the Red Barn is on the go-home side from people coming off of the interstate, whereas there's nothing to serve the go-to-work side of the road as you approach the interstate, and also people going into the industrial park. And so that's why that use would be appropriate for this site. Just for some background, the applicants own this property for about 15 years, or the property owner has, and has tried to market it a number of times. And the continual feedback from real estate brokers in the marketplace is it would need to be rezoned to be able to be sold to a zoning that matches this mixed-use corridor. And in addition to that, I think in the staff report you'll note that a traffic analysis was supplied, which would show you any impact on traffic. And I think it did not recommend any additional signalization, just perhaps a change in the sequencing on any of the existing traffic signals. Let's see. The other point being, and the final point, of course, it being it being a major corridor, no purely residential use is going to have any success. There wouldn't be any interest in the marketplace for such a use. So to sum up, what we're really asking for is to change it to a use that, in fact, or a zoning designation that matches the uses in that corridor. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.
I had one question.
Commissioner G?
There has been talks from staff about additional zoning options. Has the applicant given any feedback on that?
Yeah, I've talked to the owner. I mean, he feels that the industrial is the best designation, but clearly residential is not the appropriate designation.
Well, with the other option also being general mixed use, what you see with some of the other area over there, has he given any feedback in regards to that?
Well, I mean, where we're coming from is with the proposed industrial designation, with our proffers, we're eliminating virtually all the uses that would be objectionable, and the uses that are left are primarily just retail-type commercial uses.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-18-01. I do have several speakers. As I call your name, would you come forward, state your name and your address, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Our first speaker is John Wright.
Good afternoon, members of the commission and the Vice Chairman. My name is John Wright. My address is 4021 Seaboard Court, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23701. I'm the manager and principal owner of WP2 LLC. We have owned this property for approximately 15 years. When we moved shortly after we moved our business to Seaboard Court. The site is somewhat of a unique site. It's irregular in shape, and you'll note that on Garwood, as it crosses over Greenwood, you'll see that there's a triangular piece that's in there that we are working with the city with right now to have that designated as right-of-way. Right now, it is owned at fee simple by the city. And one of the things that we needed was to have that designated as right-of-way, not fee, or not regular land. That section of road was put in whenever the industrial park off of Seaboard Court was established, and the pump station was built, and that road actually sits on one of the original lots. And that's why when the right-of-way came through, the right-of-way was not as wide as the lot, therefore it created another piece of land that doesn't belong to us, but yet is attached to our property and attached to Garwood Avenue. One of the things that is unique about this site also is this is the only access point to the Greenwood Industrial Park, a vibrant community of 25-plus businesses employing some 200 people, not counting the masonry company, which employs several hundred, but they don't report to work there. One of the other recent businesses that has actually opened in Chesapeake, but their only access is through Seaboard Court, and that is Lux Stone. And we've checked with Lux Stone, and Lux Stone is anticipating upwards of 50 cycles a day. And what that means is that they're going to be running, that's 50 loads in and 50 loads out every day, in addition to the normal businesses that are on the street there now. As Mr. Barclay had said, we've had this property for over 15 years. It's constantly been on the market. When we bought it, we tore down a crack house that was located on it, very dilapidated. It may have been two, but I know we tore one down right after we bought it that was on the site, and have paid the taxes, maintained it religiously for 15 years. And we believe it's time to put this site to work, back on the tax rolls of the city. It's not generating anything right now for the city, and we'd like to see it back on the tax rolls and something other than a piece of property that we've cut grass on for 15 years and have not been able to successfully market this for what we think is the proper uses. And we feel that it's a site that can service the industrial as well as the other surrounding businesses and residential as well, and don't think we would be offering an obnoxious use once we find a buyer by the aspect of our proffers, which have eliminated some of the more noxious uses that the city recommended we eliminate. We did not do a survey down Seaboard Court because most of that is storage and dilapidated vehicles. There are several businesses that run out of there or store out of there, but we could not get good information on the businesses that are on Seaboard Court. But Garwood is the only access. When the Ford Motor Truck Company came in and built their facility at the end of Seaboard Court, they had the city put in, and I'll see
Mr. Wright, we have one more minute.
see if I can't put this. Whoop. Where do we go here? Right here, that is a right out, excuse me, my thumbs are big. This is an accommodation of a right out only at this location right here. I believe your write-up shows that that's a right in and right out. You cannot make a right turn into this legally. you can only make a right turn out. So all the traffic is forced here and around to come back down Seaboard Court and Seaguard. So the only access is this location right here, and this is one of two exit locations. There is a no truck sign at this intersection or no
Thank you,
heavy
Mr. Wright.
vehicle
Your time
sign.
is up.
And I'll stand by for questions for any
Thank
that may need it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Wayne Willis.
Good afternoon. I'm Wayne Willis from Portsmouth Acres Civic League, and I have resided at 422 Garwood Avenue since 1963. My children have lived in Portsmouth Acres since their youth. My daughter rents a house from me at the corner of Bedford and Garwood Avenue, across from Bedford Court, 303 Bedford Court. In reference to zoning Z 1801 at 303 Bedford Court, I wish to express some aspects that are very disturbing to our neighborhood if this zoning proposal is approved. We are a very small, quiet, secluded community. We are law-abiding citizens. We have enjoyed a country in the city style life for most of our lives. We feel that anything other than single-family houses being placed here would harm us more than previous zonings granted to applicants concerning our community. This same applicant has already placed 13 two-story houses on Bedford Court. However, City Council only approved placement of 10 houses there. His original request for zoning was on the same site was approximately for 26 apartment units there, but that was denied. This seems to indicate to us that he has no real feelings about whom he harms in his quest for personal gain. To bring forth another major problem concerning the aftermath of flooding on Leedale Avenue, which abuts the houses he placed on Bedford Court. The applicant covered up the existing drainage ditch that we had there and installed a curb and sidewalk and pitched the grade from east to west, which is exactly reversed from the original grading previously used. This was great for him, but chaos for us. The water had no place to go except into the yard at 4014 Leedale Avenue, as well as flooding the street on Leedale Avenue. We complained, however, nothing happened about any correction. Later, the city finally came out and said the work was done properly. They they only saw a nice sidewalk and a nice curb. And the young man and his family living in the flooded house later moved out to avoid flooding of his driveway as well as his front yard. This is a problem none of us ever had to endure before this applicant placed his 13 houses there. How can we trust this applicant not to leave us holding the bag again? I have photos of two of the floods to show the board members, but I don't have them in my hand right now. I'll supply them later when we go to council, I suppose. Furthermore, placing a convenience store there will cause much more traffic and all night long. We are also concerned about robberies that are rampant at convenience stores. Robbers may flee through our tranquil neighborhood, a place not known by most Portsmouth native residents. Therefore, bandits could see us as easy pickings for some home invasions at a later date after they have discovered us. We also fear for the safety of our old folks coming through from the seniors' home, going to the Food Line store in wheelchairs, and I'm sure that many people can tell you that. Trying to avoid the large trucks and many cars. Also, what will happen to my daughter's well-being, who lives just across the street? We know we cannot trust this applicant. Once he achieves your rezoning, he will do what he wants. He states it is not feasible to place houses there. Now, we know there was a house there that was not a crack house. We knew the man for years, and he knew my children, and it was not as he's been painted. He did the people no special favor by buying the house.
Mr. Willis, you have 1 minute.
Okay. We asked you that please listen to what the people say. Please deny this application. Please don't contribute to the demise of a community just for one man's lust for greater wealth. Now, I'd like to have all the people opposed to this rezoning. Would you please stand, please? We thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willis.
Our next speaker, John Pera.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Thank you for having me out here. I'd like to start by saying my name is John Pera. I reside the property at 300 Bedford Court, which is directly across the street from this property. Okay. Now, I know that property is quite low across the street. There's a big drainage ditch in that darker area there. If I can find your laser pointer. Well, anyhow, well, I'll read what I have to say. I also live there with my daughter and my 6-year-old grandchild. As a gentleman said before me, there's going to be 50 loads in and 50 loads out thank you, 50 loads in and out of dump trucks. They're heavy hauling dump trucks. I never noticed them so much until like the last couple months when the stone place came into effect. Anyhow, traffic does concern me. Okay, I've been there for 13 years. I'd like to request an adjacent property to be left as residential zoning. We have concerns with traffic, crime, noise pollution, light pollution, and water runoff. My neighbors on the corner also has, across here at 213 Bedford, has 2 twin babies. They're both 2 years old. And they like to play, you know, ride their tricycles and bicycles and in the wagons and such in the street as well. Okay. Again, the elderly people that live in that senior living facility, they ride their battery-operated wheelchairs to the food line constantly. People of all ages are comfortable walking, riding bikes, and enjoying outdoors with their families and pets. It's something that I like to see remain as a neighborhood, you know. Keep all the industrial stuff on the other side of the tracks. Okay, traffic accidents at Greenwood and Garwood are already occurring frequently, quite often, at least 2 to 3 a week I notice at that intersection right there. Increasing more traffic and people that are not a resident, you know, could invite crime into the area, plus whatever business goes into that place. Okay, we're a close-knit community, and we take it upon ourselves to maintain tree limbs, ditches, etc. You know, limbs go in front of the street signs. We do take care of it ourselves. Okay, I guess the city sometimes overlooks it, but we take care of it. Okay, please take my words into consideration as if this was your home and your loved ones live there, and something like this is going to happen, you know, in front of your house. So you have to see every day walking out your front door. Like I said, when I bought this property, there was a home there initially, and it probably stayed there about 2 years till they tore it down. I guess the elderly gentleman or elderly woman that lived in there, it was not referred to as a crack house, not as I know of, unless the elderly are all on crack now, I don't know. But it was never nothing like that I saw. And also what he's explained about every bit of traffic that goes in that industrial park has to go down Bedford in front of my house. Every truck, car, or person that works back there to enter that has to come in front of my house. And they're talking 50 loads with the Lux Stone Company. Something's got to be done about that. It's already increased traffic right there. People just moved in there recently. I haven't kind of did overnight. The railroad they added 2 more tracks to the side so they can back up their gravel back there. And dump trucks are constantly going in front of the house there. And every bit of traffic already has to come down Garwood and make a left on the Bedford to get on the Seaguard to go to Seaboard. And I don't see where, I'd like to see it kept residential, my point. I want to thank you for your time. Let me speak.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Teresa Willis Knapp.
Good after, is it working? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Teresa L. Willis Knapp. I reside at 212 Bedford Court, of course, in Portsmouth. The place where I live is catty-corner from that site. So you see where it says site, residential, and then across the street, there's another property? That's where I reside. I would like to see this site remain as residential. I believe that changing the zoning to anything at all would be a detriment to our neighborhood. And we were the second family to move out there when the neighborhood started. And over time, people will grow older and they will move out, and young people with their children move in. So it's constantly having a new generation of young people living in that neighborhood. And it's quite an unusual place, because even though it's in the city and we drive a short ways to go to this place or that place, it's still like we're living in the country. And that's something that we would very much like to see preserved. Also, a couple of things that I had heard picked up during the work session, or through something that someone else may have said in this meeting today, that there is a situation where this is a dangerous area where Garwood and Greenwood intersect. We do have people from the elderly home and in wheelchairs with walkers who don't walk well, and they're trying to cross there, and that's only going to get worse. Even if this is not granted, because the stone is going to make it worse, and the place where the Gwaltney was, that's going to make it worse. So this would be a 3-time make it worse if this is changed from residential. It's just going to compound. Also, we are Portsmouth Acres Civic League. I heard it mentioned in the work session that we did not have any formal civic league. It has been filed with the city, and so that we're recognized as a civic league. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that when a property is rezoned from residential to industrial or commercial, as you well know, the value of that property goes up greatly. I heard the applicant, I think his name is Mr. Barclay, and also the property owner, Mr. Wright, mention about rezoning and then the word selling. So that makes me think it's sort of kind of like being flipped, property being flipped to make a big buck. So that makes me think of that. Of course, the mention of a crack house. It was not a crack house. The family lived there up until a few years before the property was torn down. They rented the property from somebody else, and when that gentleman died, that's when they had to leave. But they were promised the whole time that he was alive that they could rent from him. So that's why that place was torn down. I was wondering what the applicant considers residential development success.
Ms. Knapp, you have 1 more minute.
Thank you. It was indicated that it could not be developed and have any residential development success. We've got a lot of residential development success all around it. The pictures and the descriptions make it seem like there's nothing residential there, but there is. Right across the street from the site, right beside the site, catty-corner from the site. The things that are being pointed out are on the opposite side of Greenwood, making it seem like that's not going to add anything to our problems. So I just have a great deal of concerns, and I thank you so much for you guys listening to what I had to say, and I hope that you will please deny Z1801. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Ava Middleton. Avis is not here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Planning Council and members. My name is Ava Middleton. I reside at 103 Bedford Place. We, the residents of the Portsmouth Acres community, feel as though our community should not be rezoned from general residential for the following reasons. First and foremost, we have a well-built senior living complex in the community that is 100% occupied by seniors that are singled, handicapped, and disabled. Rezoning from general residential will, of course, bring more traffic to the community. Some of these seniors are in manual and motorized wheelchairs being pushed and assisted by companions, and some are actually wheeling along Bedford Court alone to go to and from the nearby stores or just a stroll out in the community. Let's not make these seniors in the community feel unsafe with all the extra increase of traffic that's being impeded on Bedford Place. Secondly, is the current market value of the homes will decrease by rezoning from general residential to whether it's light industrial or mixed use. The new homeowners on Bedford Place surely didn't purchase in this community to see the new homes lose value rapidly, nor to notice within 1 to 2 years that their general residential zone community would be rezoned. As per my expertise for over 12 years as a real estate agent, most homeowners purchase new construction because they see value within a newly built home, and location is the #1 factor of purchasing a home. I am one of those new homeowners that's over on Bedford Place. When an appraisal is performed on a property, whether it's residential, commercial, mixed use, or industrial, as part of the appraisal process and determine the value of the home is zoning for the property and whether it is to be a legal use, illegal use, a legal non-conforming use, which is a grandfathered use, or if there is no zoning at all. This all plays a huge factor in giving value to the property and whether the buyer is interested in a said community that is zoned in an area other than general residential. Residents are affected in areas where there is commercial and industrial or mixed-use zoning for the following reasons. They will have site noise, odor, much more lighting than normal, a high peak of traffic in the community. The community may experience maintenance issues. Mainly the rezone area may not be kept clean and free of excessive debris or other potentials such as crime. Portsmouth residents pay a high tax dollar. By paying a high tax dollar, we expect to live in a community where there's a quality of life without having to worry about interruptions within our community by others that don't currently live in the community, or homes being invaded by any of the new traffic people that this rezoning will bring. These trafficker people will now realize that there is a senior complex, because some people didn't realize that there was a senior complex in that area, and they will realize newly built residential homes are in the area. This could be thought as possible crime. Changing our community to anything other than general residential would be a deterrent to future residents
Ms. Middleton, one more minute, please.
because of what the area is zoned to be and what future construction that may be coming to the community. Let's keep the zoning to general residential so we can have peace, raise our children on safe streets in Portsmouth Acres, and so our seniors can live their days in a family-oriented and safe neighborhood without the hustle and bustle of crime and noise. My third and final point is that there is no growth in a well-established community that is rezoned for anything other than what it is current use for, and that is general residential. What value will a warehouse or any convenience store bring to the community? What benefits will there be for the senior complex residents or the current residents of Portsmouth Acres? But wait, even the new homeowners such as myself, how will we benefit from any equity in our home if this zoning takes place? Our equity will decrease as our property taxes will continue to increase. The shift of rezoning will impact us in the community where there may be a challenge we face for the difficulty
Ms. Middleton.
of the resale of our homes. Thank you.
Our next speaker, John Blount.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Blount. I live at 4014 Garwood Avenue. It's directly right off of this picture here. I have been residing inside of this residence for about 3 years. I have 3 children. The oldest is 9-year-olds. 2 of them actually go to the actual school on the corner that's a block from this actual property. I pick them up from off of the bus, and they get picked up on the bus at the same location. The reason why they're being picked up at this location is because a block down, there was flooding down on Leedale and Jarman. I cross over this area. I exercise on Bedford Court, though. I have nearly been ran over in the same location because of the amount of traffic that we have here. I myself, though, am a concerned parent, resident, business owner, as well as a person who's just concerned for just common sense. Anytime that someone wants to bring something to my community that's going to add more crime, more traffic, or any type of disruption to my quality of living, no, affects me as a person first. Also, it's the fact is that I've done an analysis from you all's crime department and have found there has been over 450 incidents in this area. And that is not including another 212 incidents that happened at 7-Eleven that's on Airline Boulevard. Now, I understand each one of you are probably parents in some form or fashion, even have grandchildren. And to sit there and think that you have to wake up every morning seeing that there are people exiting and entering a parking lot, potentially running your children over as a possibility, is something that should bother each and every one of you. I understand that this is a situation, though, that affects all of us as a community, though, but should also affect us as human beings as well. There should be no reason why there should be any other than a residence inside of our community at any given point in time, though, from here forward. We understand that there is a need for a desire for growth in our neighborhood, but I do not see how this will benefit us as residents of this community. Now, I want to make sure that everyone understands, though, that this site has been here. I've been a resident of Portsmouth for over 30 years. I've fought 2 wars, and I've come back, though, and my main focus is security. Since the time that I've been here, I have been robbed as a resident of this community, along with a few of my other residents that goes inside this community as well. Security is my main focus, and that includes for each and every day that I close my eyes at night and every time my kid gets up and goes to the bus stop every morning. If a resident can sit there and say at any given time that he cares about the growth of Portsmouth, knowing that there is a person living across the street, that there is children getting picked up on a bus stop every morning, getting dropped off at a bus stop, and it will not affect our community, I would like for him to sit there and stand right now and have a little bit of decency to acknowledge the fact that he believes that that statement is true. I understand that there might be a little bit of aggression in my voice, though, but I am deeply troubled that this applicant has any audacity to come to a quiet community that has had an established residency for over 60 years and believe that 15 years of not being able to put a residence house up here, that he can go in and just flip this property and think they will not affect us as a community. I judge each and every person here to look at their conscience for a moment. and sit there and look within themselves and wonder, what would it be like if you woke up every morning to see 5 to 10 cars inside of your front of your house? If your children have to walk to the bus stop, though, and there are 18-wheelers and dump trucks flying past your house at 20, 30 miles an hour, and no, I'm not exaggerating, I have proof. To know that there's a crime report that has over 400 incidents in 1 year, not including the 7-Eleven that's a block away. There has been violent crimes, there has been shootings, there has been killings.
Mr. Blount, one more minute, please.
Thank you. There has also been a large amount of accidents on the same corner of this same area. And you want to bring a convenience store that's going to increase all of those as above. I ask all of you to sit there and take a moment and judge the fact that you are parents, that you are residents, that you are human beings, and not allow this applicant to change anything about our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Michael Foreman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Michael Foreman. I live on 200 Bedford Court, and I'd like to speak in opposition to this. Heard quite a bit about everything, and I'd like to concentrate on the cropped application, just like this picture has been cropped, and some issues, interesting issues that have been ignored, specifically traffic. We've heard some anecdotal evidence that says, hey, there's lots of traffic out here, and they're correct, there is. But what was ignored completely in the traffic study was Bedford Court. Bedford Court is a cut-through from Airline. It just cuts directly to and attaches to Airline Boulevard. That was left out of the study, and on purpose, because it would require some significant upgrades to be able to handle the traffic there. It has sections of it that are only 20 feet wide, basically a one-way street, and will not allow two-way traffic. You've heard the people say, hey, everything comes by, it's very, very quick, everything goes wrong. And it's true, it's like a racetrack. The traffic study estimates that 2,400 trips a day will come to the 7-Eleven that they propose. That's a lot. All those trips will not come through the Greenwood-Garwood intersection, because once they find out it's there, they're going to come down the Bedford way. They miss 2 stoplights, straight to where they're going to go, and then out. And there's been no proffers made. The proffers that were made by the applicant are toothless. They're giving away something he wasn't going to use anyway. No proffers were made in any way, shape, or form that have any tooth that would allow the inclusion or improvement of the roadways that are there. Nor does it take care of the situation we talked about, the neighbors across the street. Light pollution, noise pollution caused by the site. They're not in there. There's no buffers. Rezoning the site to industrial light causes and gives the developer the maximum site usage with no buffers required. So basically, somebody goes into 7-Eleven, they pull out, and he's pulling out right across the guy's driveway. There's none at all, tenants at all. There's nothing to hold him back at all. The site itself, the roadway is currently in disrepair. Bedford Court has been expanded. During the developer's previous project, which is Bedford Place, a new homestead, has now caused traffic to go through there, and the buses cannot go through because it's a one-way street. The bus stops have been moved. There's tons of flooding. In addition, and forgive me, I'm kind of upset about this. Here it is. There's no visual buffers, no sound buffers, there's no buffer of any kind to help anything on there. The traffic study itself doesn't attenuate or say how to attenuate left turns that come off Greenwood. The number of left turns that come off Greenwood are tremendously increased and will not be done. It was recommended that no light cycle changes or no light additions changes. That's impossible to do. what really concerns me, living on Bedford Court, the ignoring of Bedford Court has really kind of caused an issue, because in front of my house is a 20-foot wide road. Cars that are going to come down airline with that will not allow it to happen. I'm tremendously nervous right now having this. I apologize for not being as eloquent as I usually am. But I would like to say that you not deny this application, and that they also would add some proffers onto this. For example, the proffers we should add to this rezoning should be...
Mr. Foreman, one more minute.
Yes, now I apologize. Should be no gas station at all, no 24-hour operation, no outdoor speakers of any kind, and that any trips over the generated residential trips that are equivalent for this site would be mitigated and built and improvements on Garwood and Bedford Court. I apologize for a medical condition, but I hope you heard some things that made some sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Dorothy Flowers.
Hello, everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Can you move over?
Hello. My name's Dorothy Flowers, and I live at 204 Bedford Court, right across from the Commons. As you can see, I rely on a handicap device to get around, but I'm also a grandmother raising a grandchild with autism. And every other weekend, she has siblings and cousins that come over so we can have a family environment. As you heard before, our community is an extent, it's kind of an extent, how do you say it when it's not existent anymore? You don't find communities like this where people say hi and wave. I do live in the area where the lanes are one way. My daughter has to walk in two of my neighbors' yards, and I have to walk on the street to get her to a bus stop every morning and pick her up, because you can't get but one car down there. And on several occasions, I've been nearly hit. I visit with my neighbors across the street. Many of them, yes, are in motorized chairs, are walkers, and it's just you can't, there's no walking. They're cutting through. We have no through signs. It does not stop. I'm asking you to keep this residential. When the man bought the property, he knew that it was zoned GR. I'm not here to ask you to keep it that way to line my pocket, my lawyer's pocket, or the developer's pocket. I'm asking you to preserve a community that's become extinct, where children are growing up, learning the neighbors. We're mixed. You know, there's not hate, there's not crime. If you put a business there, the other thing y'all need to think about is you're on the corner. If they cross those railroad tracks, you're in Chesapeake. If they hit that interstate, it becomes a state problem if a crime is committed. And I have been in an incident where I've crossed over that overpass and been with 911 in Portsmouth, and they switched me to Chesapeake because I'm no longer in their city. So y'all need to look at that factor too. You're dealing with 3 state agencies, state police, Portsmouth, and Chesapeake. If something's committed and they've hit it in the other direction. The traffic there has gotten really bad. You know, in the mornings and the afternoons, if there's an accident on 58, they're using our street to cut through. When you get off today, take a drive. I have been in Portsmouth. I was raised here and did not realize there was a community there till 6 years ago when the good Lord blessed us with a chance to buy a house. And I ask you, please don't change this. We lived in Craddock for 20 years and had to leave because of y'all's rezoning and changing of things in that community, and we could no longer stay. I have found a community that my grandchildren can be raised and feel safe, and I would like y'all and ask y'all, please keep it this way. Don't worry about the money. They got other spots. Let them go build their businesses here or there. But keep one community in Portsmouth where it's actually a home. You can step back in time. So please, when you get off today, ride down there and ride through this neighborhood. You'll see what we're talking about. The businesses are kind of off to the back. They're not affecting these 43 or 4 little streets, 40 worth of homes back there. There's elderly, there's new people coming in with kids. Give our kids a chance to know what it's like when we was growing up. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Ms. Tracy Roberts.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tracy B. Roberts. I live at 4015 Leedale Avenue in Portsmouth. I've been there for 14 years. I am one of the 2 houses that's affected by the flooding when I believe, I'm not sure if this is correct, but Mr. Wright had owned properties and built the new properties there. We did not have this flooding before, and now when it rains, the whole area floods out, and it's affecting my property, which I've complained to the city numerous times, and it's noted, and nothing's been done. And so I know that is a separate issue, but that does, conflict in some ways with this. I don't have anything written. I believe in going from the heart. I'm going to piggyback on a lot of what they say. 14 years ago, there was a home there. The grass was cut. It's never grown up. It was clean. It was a clean environment. I have 5 children. I moved from the north, from a condominium up north. I chose to come south, not for the military. Everybody says, oh, I've never met anyone who didn't come for the military. I came for a greener, healthier, slower pace environment for my children. In coming here, I just want to say that, yes, there's an older home residential area on that street. It's actually right next to the home that they showed the picture of. And I was the one who noted, everyone, they ride on, on the little handicap wheels down to 7-Eleven and the Speedway. And when they say that they would need something to get on the highway there, we have 5 areas. So if I want a candy bar or a bottle of water, I already have a Speedway, a 7-Eleven, a CVS, a Rite Aid, and a Food Lion to choose from. I don't need any more stores to stop at. They are actually on the other side. So they're on the other side adjacent of our neighborhood. Why we would need a 6th one on our side is beyond me. I am worried about the traffic. I'm worried about if it's going to be built correctly. And who would help us in the aftermath if it wasn't? I'm worried about crime coming through. My children are still there. And I just want to take just a note for you guys that I don't know if you realize this, but you have a gem in Portsmouth, literally. I mean, I just visited Baltimore, Maryland, and I couldn't wait to get home because of the inner city, because of the traffic, because of the, the dirt, because of homelessness. And I know we should help those people, and there's nothing against that. But I chose to live here for that slower, cleaner environment. And when you have homes or areas like Boston, Mass., New York, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, they didn't start that way. And there are, I know you're saying, well, those are larger areas, Portsmouth smaller. There's an area up north, New Haven, Connecticut, small town. It's completely overrun. It's a full-on city. Your children are not healthy. They're not taken care of. It's not a healthy environment. People are getting killed. You have a special area here in Portsmouth, and I just hope that you really consider what you let in or what's going to be built here. Chesapeake, I love Chesapeake. I have family there. I love Virginia Beach. It's built up. I go to Virginia Beach. You go for breakfast. From the time I got off the highway to the place, it literally took 15 minutes of traffic. We don't have that here in Portsmouth. Portsmouth is a gem, and I hope you really know what we have here and that you consider what's built and where things are built, and really let builders know that we care and have an understanding of what's going on. And I just want to just say, as neighbors here, we have a very quaint, quiet neighborhood. Like she mentioned, drive-through. And it would be a shame to have that taken away. It would be a shame to have more traffic or concerns on burglaries or robberies. So I just hope that you keep that in mind. So thank you, and you have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Our next speaker, Steve Carroll.
Good evening, board members. My name is Steve Carroll. I reside at 3112 River Edge Drive. I do not live in Portsmouth Acres, but I'm good friends of a number of people that live there. I'm here today to voice my opposition to Z1801. Portsmouth Acres has been, for over 60 years, a sound, quiet residential community of over 40 homes, quite unlike what has been presented by the applicant. Portsmouth Acres is a diverse neighborhood, and it's a friendly neighborhood. Decades ago, people moved here into this isolated area to find peace and quiet. It was only until I-264 made their large lots a lucrative target for greedy developers and land speculators. The applicant has a history of attempting to impose his non-standard and unpopular development ambitions on this community. I would encourage you to go back through the archives and look at Z0701. Z0701. The zoning request is ill-advised for a number of reasons. Reckless motorists and truckers use Garwood and Bedford and other neighborhood streets as bypasses to traffic generated by a nearby traffic light. Rude motorists have been repeatedly flagged for speeding and reckless disregard for this community. Residents of a nearby senior group home traverse nearby streets in wheelchairs and motorized devices without adequate sidewalks, crosswalks, or traffic control. A number of new homes ultimately built as a result of a failed rezoning attempt by this applicant 11 years ago, Z0701, has resulted in significant flooding that is unabated by the builder or the city. A number of heavy commercial trucks utilize the roads for shortcutting that traffic light and servicing businesses adjacent to Portsmouth Acres, causing damage to these scenic roads and endangering the motorists and pedestrians living there. Residents of Portsmouth Acres are routinely exposed to a chain of gravel dump trucks and late-night rumbling of locomotives. The applicant's representatives have been disingenuous with past meetings with the community. They focused on what they weren't going to do and nothing about what they were going to do, and that's troubling. The applicant's attorney presented a very disingenuous presentation of a negative picture of this community. In other words, there's a storage area they call the junkyard. If you want to see a junkyard, go to the corner of Deep Creek Boulevard and Frederick Boulevard and look at the junk buses that are there for everyone in this city to see. That's a junkyard. The applicant seeks a light industrial or possibly a mixed-use rezoning. This gives him a blank check. His proffers are meaningless and are full of legal loopholes. Again, he's not telling these people or anybody what he intends to do. I inquired about this but just before March 6th. How did this get on the docket when at the time a traffic study had not been done? It was withdrawn. How can we evaluate the proper use of this property without a traffic study, without knowing what he intends to do with this property? There's credible suspicion that he intends to develop a convenience store or like development. Consider this: Red Barn nearby, fuel and convenience sales; Speedway, fuel and convenience sales; 7-Eleven, fuel and convenience sales; 7-Eleven, convenience sales; Rite Aid, pharmacy and convenience sales; CVS, pharmacy and convenience sales; Food Lion, full grocery. Again, we don't need this here. Any commercial
Mr.
venture.
Carroll, one more minute, please.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll try to hurry. Any additional density or commercial development of any kind is going to increase the drainage problems, noise and light pollution. Children live here. Again, you don't want this for your neighborhood. Why would they? This man right here is a veteran of 2 wars. He's got a 2-year-old kid that he's been bringing to our meetings in a cold, dirty garage to fight for his community. That man deserves better. This whole neighborhood deserves better. There's 40 homes here. 40 homes. This is wrong. You should reject the entire premise of rezoning this and leave this entire community and this site alone. Let this property stay residential and let him do something that complements the community, not these other businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-18-01. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward at this time, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Madam Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
I'd like to make the motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny Z-18-01. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second to deny Z-18-01 for the commissioners. A yes vote is to support the denial, and a no vote is against it. You may vote electronically. This item is denied by a vote of 6-0. Our next application, CA-18-01. The City of Portsmouth is proposing, just 1 minute. Are y'all, no. I was going to let y'all leave. Sorry. You're welcome. Our next item, CA-18-01 citywide. The City of Portsmouth is proposing to amend the city's zoning ordinance to increase the minimum lot sizes only for new subdivisions and re-subdivisions in the general residential, urban residential, and urban residential high zoning districts at the request of the City Council, of Portsmouth City Council. The minimum lot size proposed are no greater than, number 1, in the general residential GR district, 12,500 square feet with a lot width of 75 feet. Number 2, in the urban residential UR district, 6,000 square feet with a lot width of 600 feet. And 3, in the urban residential high URH district, 7,500 square feet with a lot width of 50 feet. The lot widths indicated above may be reduced to the average lot width in the same block. The proposed amendments will not affect existing lots of record except as otherwise provided in the zoning ordinance. Our staff coordinator is John Hartley.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, before you today is an amendment to the zoning ordinance at the request of City Council. This is really to address a problem that has existed since 2010 when a new ordinance was adopted. Originally, there were 13 residential districts in the city in 2009, and the ordinance in 2010 consolidated those 13 districts into 4 residential districts. And in setting the minimum lot size for those districts as well as the minimum lot width, they selected a number that was at or below what the minimum lot size was in those in the combined districts overall. So what we are and what has occurred because of that is that a number of lots that are out there already that have a home on them have been acquired, the house has been torn down, and then the lot has been cut up into 2 two lots, or there have been three lots, or two lots that have been combined to create three lots. Many of those lots at a scale density that is inconsistent with the surrounding neighbors. Both City Council and the staff have received numerous complaints about this issue, and there are probably some more to come because we do have a couple of projects already in the pipeline where they're proposing to create lots that are inconsistent with what's around it. What we're attempting to do is to solve that problem by a combination of the minimum lot size as well as the minimum lot width. The Secretary did read an important provision to keep in mind, and that is that if the minimum lot widths are smaller than what is shown here in the block that the lot exists, then that lot width can be used in lieu of what is required here on this table. But otherwise, the idea is to curtail, prevent certainly the most egregious divisions of property in the community, while still allowing infill development and subdivisions of larger parcels that are to a size that's appropriate with the surrounding properties. I would add that this is something we're doing as I'll call it a short-term basis. We are working on the zoning ordinance in its entirety. This has been one of a number of high priority issues that we need to bore into a little bit more. Our gut right now is that we may be actually creating one or two more residential districts to make the dimensional requirements a little more attuned to the specific neighborhoods. But at this point, this is what we have to suggest to deal with the problem that has concerned City Council. There are a couple of pictures I have that follow this, just to give you an example of some of the development we are seeing. This is at the corner of Deep Creek Boulevard and Greenwood Drive. It consists of 6 homes that were created out of 4 lots. 3 or 4 lots, I think. And then just down the road from that is another lot division that occurred. And the frontages on these lots are about 38 feet each. And the dilemma that creates within a neighborhood is not only development on a different scale of lot or a different size lot, but it also exacerbates any kind of parking issues that may exist on the street, because essentially you can park maybe one car out in front of the house, and if there are more cars that are there because of the residents or activities, then they're on the street and they're parking in front of other people's homes. Not that they own the right to the parking space out in front, but it does create more parking congestion in neighborhoods that haven't seen that before. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions you may have, or I'll let you proceed with the public hearing.
Thank you, John. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item CA-18-01. If there is anyone here who would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, honorable commissioners, and fellow interested parties. I think the case is pretty open and shut for the necessity of this particular change. What I'm here to speak to, in addition to supporting the idea, is time is of the essence. At this point in time from now until final action on the schedule that has been stated in the supportive materials, it's going to be June 12th before this becomes ratified by council, assuming they take favorable action on it and you recommend it to them. And so anything that's in the pipeline right now will probably be accelerated by those who have an interest in continuing this practice, which I consider destructive of established neighborhoods. I would ask then if there is any mechanism, any legal way that this can be fast-tracked so that if you pass it, it does not have to wait until the second council meeting in May for action. That I don't see an attorney present, but I would.
Mr. Hartley, Mr. Baldwin.
The reason why it's being delayed until the second meeting in May is that the first meeting in May has been set aside exclusively for the budget public hearing before City Council, and they've asked that no other items be placed on that agenda. Otherwise, it would go to them at their first meeting in May, and then the second reading would be the adoption, assuming they adopt it. So that's why the delay.
But there is a second meeting in April. If it were put on a fast track, as I have seen other items handled, it would allow that to go in at the end of April and then be a follow-up vote at the first meeting in May, which should not consume a lot of time.
The difficulty with doing that is that it has to be advertised in a newspaper according to a certain schedule, and that can't be done at this point in order to make the meeting in April. That's one of the reasons why all of our agenda items go to City Council at their first meeting in the next month because of the advertising requirement. And that's.
Let me just add something too, just for planning commissioner understand our protocol. We do not have a fast track process. A lot of people talk about fast tracking items. We do not have a fast track process per se. So the only time we fast track anything if City Council directly, tells us to fast track something. It's a very rarely used and generally non-preferred approach because of the inability to get not only the advertising done correctly, which is part of it, but also to get the package put together and all of our minutes together. We would have no approved minutes from the Planning Commission regarding your meeting, those types of things. So the general fast tracking concept has been done on a few occasions, but generally, in fact, since I've been here, it's been directed by City Council to do so. And this one, they want us to do quickly, but it has not been directed to be off of our regular processing schedule.
In light of that, I will submit a second recommendation, and I see that I'm coming up on 1 minute. That is that you suspend approval, which I understand is done administratively now, with this item pending. And so anybody who has not brought plans to you already would have to wait until council action, either to approve or deny, for their plans to be reviewed. I consider this a menace to established neighborhoods. And I think that there is sentiment on City Council that is similar, or they would not have given you this particular direction. So those are my best ideas in terms of making this a reality in the shortest time possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is a public hearing. If there is anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward at this time, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none. Madam Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed. We need a motion.
Thaxton.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve CA-18-01. May I have a second? I have a second.
We have a motion and a second to approve CA-18-01, and you will be voting electronically. This item is approved 6-0. Our next item on our agenda is a resolution for zoning ordinance amendments related to food trucks. In 2017, the city initiated a program to allow food trucks in the city under certain circumstances and locations. With 1 year's experience with the program, the staff is proposing minor changes in the operating procedures and ordinances that affect the food truck industry to better facilitate the operators and customers. One of those minor changes is to allow food trucks on private property in conjunction with microbreweries, distilleries, cideries, and wineries. In order for staff to undertake these changes, a resolution must be adopted by the Planning Commission to amend the text of the zoning ordinance. Attached is a proposed resolution to authorize this effort.
I think Regina did a good
You're
job of
welcome.
summarizing that, but I'll stand by for questions if anyone has any.
No questions?
Commissioners, we need a motion to amend the text of the zoning ordinance. Acacio?
I move for acceptance of the amendment of the food truck ordinance.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds.
We have a motion and a second to amend the zoning ordinance related to the food trucks. Am I understanding, Mr. Baldwin, there is no public hearing on this item?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second, and you will be voting electronically. This item is approved 6-0. I have you.
Madam Secretary, I believe that concludes our agenda for today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Baldwin, do you have anything further for us?
No, I do not. Just remember, we have continuing work session after we're done here.
Thanks. Hearing none, this meeting is now adjourned.